Let's go!
Yeah, so this game is a friggin' roguelite, class-based character action game with a circle that contracts like it's a BR. Like, what the hell is happening, dude? I need details. Dude, 6 hours of hands-on with Nightreign. Holy moly, dude. Yeah, there's a network test coming up soon. Like, really? A Vadi vid just came out? Don't want to piggyback on Vadi too much. I really don't, but I could absolutely use somebody with expertise and something put into a consumable format. He is the GOAT. By the way, if anybody doesn't know who Vadi Vidya is, and if you like Souls games, you don't exist. What it's like to play Elden Ring Nightreign. Did you play it?
It's funny.
Did you play it, Vadi?
In my first playthrough of Elden Ring, I distinctly remember reading this message left by another player. Fortnite. Turns out it was a prophecy, because Elden Ring Nightreign is kind of like Fortnite. Okay, I'm just kidding. Kind of. I mean, you drop in from the sky at the start of the game,
really?
And you have to outrun a circle closing in around you, but that's where the similarities end, thankfully. A ton of articles that you might have missed have actually come out about the game, and in this video,
I'm gonna say it right now. I feel like this game's existence is due to the fact that devs saw what fans did with like their multiplayer and made their multiplayer like sort of easily and more accessible and not shove somebody's crusty finger up your ass and then whistle at the moon to bring your friends into play. And people sort of found a way to make seamless co-op work. And they're like, shit, well, maybe we should do that. I was complaining for the longest period of time that I hoped Elden Ring would be that, but you still had to find somebody else's crusty finger, shove it up your butt and whistle at the moon to get your friends to play with you.
I'm going to try and get everyone up to speed.
Seekers of redemption, you were chosen. Thrown together by forces beyond their control.
So, From Software has actually never done anything like this before. They've spun off the Elden Ring IP in a way that they think justifies a standalone Elden.
Yeah, spun off the Elden Ring IP, and also even more so than before, as we saw the oh god, what the hell's the Bloodborne weapon? The stake driver animation right there, and also a bunch of characters not from Elden Ring, from other Souls games.
Elden Ring title that you'll be able to purchase and play sometime in 2025, and it will exist in complete isolation from your other copy of the game. In a phrase, Nightreign is a PvE co-op survival roguelike Souls-like with some battle royale and extraction elements as well. And you know, that sentence tells you everything and nothing at the same time, so let's break it down. With special thanks to the journalists who have played a demo of the game and written about it, I'm going to try and walk you through a typical Nightreign session from beginning to end.
Okay.
Starting with the selection of your character.
Yeah, so this is no longer a create a character game. It's class-based. So you're just like, I want big sword guy, or it's like an allocation of stats at the start or something, right? So you don't really need to worry about how to build your character and build their own unique abilities. Like, no. It's more about finding those resources randomly throughout a run and then having every run be different.
And you don't create your own character from scratch. Rather, you'll be picking from a selection of 8 preset Nightfarers, each with their own strengths, weaknesses, abilities, and ultimates, and these characters form the foundation upon which you'll build, collecting different weapons and buffs within each session to make your character unique.
So this is exciting as shit, just in general, because just the thought of like a roguelite, just the thought of, it seems like a nightmare to me. Seems like this will be so goddamn hard. Like dealing with Elden Ring enemies and shit, where you just have to like figure shit out and get screwed up. It seems like the balance of this is not going to be easy. You know, this will be a very challenging game to make. So, which is why co-op is a part of it, which is, yeah, it's effectively, you're just going to play a randomizer without having any idea of how this works. So it's like, whoa, dude, like, why would I do that?
To start, this is.
But again, it's the excitement of every different run.
The titular character of Nightreign. They'll always start with this large longsword equipped, but what's way more important than this character's weapon is their ability and their ultimate. Their ability is the Claw Shot. It's a grappling hook that can pull you towards enemies or away from them. To use an ability, apparently you hold down Y or triangle in conjunction with one of the controller triggers, and assumedly, the other trigger is used to activate your character's ultimate attack, which, in the case of Wilder, is an explosive attack that you charge up at close range for massive damage. So each
Snake
character
Driver
is defined by their ability and their ultimate, but another thing tied to the character that you choose appears to be the stats that
How are they going to make money out of this? Well, they're going to charge you to play the game. They're going to probably charge you $49.99 to play it. Wait a minute, is this confirmed to be free to play? Is this confirmed to be free to play? Like, do you guys think it's going to be free to play? No. This game will cost you about $49.99 or something like that. I don't think it'll be full price, but it is going to, you're going to have to buy it and then you play it with people. I think that's how it works.
each character favors. While you can level up stats manually, PC Gamer notes that some characters will still always have more health than others, for example. On that note, the Guardian is best suited as the tank for the group because they have high HP as well as a passive that favors the usage of shields.
Birdman.
Their ability is this whirlwind attack that interrupts enemies so that your teammates can have a moment to shine. And their ultimate ability is Wings of Salvation, which is this crazy dive bomb attack that raises nearby ally defense.
So, okay, the power level on some shit in Elden Ring is really high. Just having characters, you know, do big crazy things is pretty high, but nothing is this big. This stuff seems pretty huge.
And also gives you the option to endure enemy attacks for a limited time after you devastate them. And then there's the Duchess, who's another favorite character of many who played. They have a Bloodborne sidestep dodge, and they also have an ability that reapplies damage done by you and your teammates in the last few seconds. So you can basically double any damage done within that period of time.
So this game will not, straight up, I'm going to be real, I don't think this game will be nearly as popular as traditional Souls games or Elden Ring. And there is a reason. And I think it's a reason that most people don't like realize inherently when you're playing it, but your brain does. And it's an attachment to your character. This almost won't have that. You have classes and shit. So you don't have the attachment to your character and your stats and the stuff that you find. That's like the point of this game, is that you lose all that shit. And then you have to like locate new things again every single time. One of the big reasons why Souls games traditionally and even Elden Ring is that you're on this big adventure, right, with either yourself or your fictional character or your OC or Hatsune Miku or whatever, you know, and you're sort of like one-to-oneing that character throughout this thing. The entire point of Nightreign is to be the opposite of that. This is like an arcade game now. Characters have big crazy moves. They're trying to get you right at the start. Look at all this insane bullshit you can do. It's almost the opposite of what gets people into like Souls games, just in general. So for somebody like me, excited, but at the same point, it was one of the reasons why like Sekiro was obviously like a brilliant game, but not everybody could get into Sekiro as much as traditional Souls games because the amount of one-to-one character attachment wasn't really there. It was a character action game or character action RPG where you were playing as that guy no matter what, you know? So this is even less of that, right? This even has less customizability and less things that you can effectively make unique about your character to yourself. Oh, I'm curious of the long-term, what I'm really curious about is we'll learn more, is the long-term development where it's like, okay, after a run, what is the perma increase, right? What do I actually leave with outside of nothing? And once a run is done, how do I keep playing this game and it evolves the same way that like Hades does or like extraction shooters do? If like, you know, what stuff do I keep as a result of every run? And is that really addicting? And is that really fun? Because that's the shit that made like obviously good roguelites really good. Where what do we keep and how do we keep going and what fashion can change and what can I actually make myself look unique over time? That kind of shit, you know?
Their ultimate ability cloaks you and nearby teammates, enhancing your stealth and allowing you to make a quick getaway.
If I play enough with this class, do I unlock cool looking better armor? You know, that'll be a good thing.
Their passive ability allows them to acquire FP whenever an enemy is slain. Their ability is called Magic Cocktail, and it passively stockpiles different statuses like poison or fire or ice whenever an enemy is hit with that type of attack. Then it releases a unique attack that's different depending on the status that was stockpiled. Their ultimate is Song of the Blood Soul, which marks all nearby enemies with an effect that restores health to any player that attacks them. Special thanks to PC Gamer for transcribing all these class abilities so neatly.
Shit is definitely weird, man.
4 other characters.
The shit is out there for FromSoft
at this stage, but I think I've been able to puzzle out a few based on the trailer footage and other interviews. This, for example, is an archer character who apparently has a sort of third-person aiming mode that's unique to them. We see them summoning a spectral hawk here, and they can do that because they're standing next to a spectral tree, which you can see on the right.
Yeah, it seems
This
experimental.
allows you to navigate the terrain in a
I feel like this is either going to be
certain amount of time,
insanely
and From
fucking
Software
cool,
thinks this will give you
or
some
kind of mid.
versatility in how you decide.
And
to
it won't be
navigate
it won't be in
the map
between.
certain
I don't think it will.
situations.
I think this
Speaking
will be
of
one of those
spirits,
things that
another
might just come out and be
character
like
is
the sickest
apparently
shit
meant to
ever,
have a
like the ultimate
spiritual
multiplayer
companion.
experience,
From
or
what I
it
can see
is
in the trailer, I don't think this
a weird
character has
idea
been
with kind of
shown
bad
before.
execution.
Next, there's a character that has an innate deflect.
Makes you realize that maybe these games are a little bit better without this kind of stuff, you know?
Deflecting hard tier in Shadow of the Erd Tree. I'm probably the most excited for this character. Lastly, IGN notes that there's a character able to raise slabs of rock out of the earth, and I think that's the character that
Big
we
boy.
see here. Let me know in the comments which characters you'll be picking. I think there's also a lot of strategy to be had in the interplay between different character abilities, and which group composition will be most optimal is definitely an interesting question as well. So, in addition to enabling you...
Can we
to-
disagree that since it is from software, we have faith in it? Yes. No, we all do. I will say inherently, just by the concept of what this is, has me super fucking excited. Even the idea of, like, you know, other developers doing things that are from soft-like, that are Souls-like, like even Onimusha that got announced, thinking that Capcom, we don't know what that game is, and it's probably going to be a traditional Capcom action game, but just the thought that Onimusha might be like a Capcom Souls-like, even though they'll never call it that, has me like, whoa, that'd be fucking sick, dude. If you could like stat allocate and like, you know, if Onimusha it would effectively be like a Neo-like in some way, I would love that shit. So again, FromSoft is like a trendsetter when it comes to this shit, and I'm even down for other developers like approaching it in the same way that like make it FromSoft-like in some ways. I'd be down, dude. If there's one thing I think Capcom could desperately use in these trying times is some FromSoft level design, you know? I'd be very down for that in something like Onimusha.
Jump into games easily with these characters. From Software also wanted to make characters like this because each of them has their own unique storyline and backstory that will become uncovered as
Spider
you
Dude,
play.
thank you.
After selecting your character, you spawn in at the Roundtable Hold, which returns from Elden Ring. Here, the characters you didn't choose will be able to be interacted with, and here you can customize each character in ways that we'll get to a little bit later. For now, let's explain what happens after you jump into a session, which you can either
It's so
do
crazy that
alone
you
or
drop
with two
in
others by your side.
on a bus,
Note that
a
the
bird
password
bus.
system is returning if you want to play with friends, but playing with randoms is also possible, and you'll have to be on the same platform as any.
Dude, this is weird because I sort of like tried to do a run the best I could of this in Bloodborne, where the whole point is that once you die, you're dead. So you just have to like keep everything. And once you respawn, the run's over. And how fun that would be. No crossplay is a big negative. That's very weird for a multiplayer focused game. But in the same way, it's like, I almost would have loved that idea, depending on where items are and if they're randomized and stuff like that. And it's just about luck of the draw type shit.
anyone else you want to play with.
Band together and prepare to claim. The life of the Night Lord.
A Nightreign session takes place over 3 in-game days, provided you can stay alive that long. And apparently each 15-minute long day starts like this, with you gliding down from a spectral bird into a land called Limveld. Limveld, according
So
to
runs aren't that
Software,
long.
is an alternate reality to the Limgrave we explored in Elden Ring. It comes across as this distorted reality, with recognizable elements from Limgrave that will be jumbled up with every new session you create. And on top of this, FromSoft notes that some versions of Limveld will be drastically different from others, with meteoric impacts and swamps and forests of rot and active volcanoes that all diversify the landscapes and offer new threats for you to overcome. Once you've chosen a landing location, you'll be on the ground running with this new animation at about 150% speed. Torrent doesn't seem to be in this game, and instead,
Yeah, your
you
ass
can
just
climb
cooks.
cliffs and
It's kind of funny.
vault ledges with your character, and you can use your new powerful abilities to kill enemies and power up your character even more as quickly as possible. Because each day only lasts.
This shit is like the Dota of Elden Ring, where it's like, yeah, it feels like it's just this crazy spin-off. We're just going to create this insane goddamn thing that was built on something inherently and try to create like a new experience around it. You know what I mean?
It's 15 minutes, and when night falls, the map.
I don't
will
mean the
shrink
toxicity.
as the night's
I mean like
tide
what
becomes
Defense of the
obscured.
Ancients is as a
Apparently, you
game,
start
right?
Each run
And what it was
pretty
based
vulnerable
on.
at level 1, but before long, PC Gamer notes that many enemies quickly become a
Yeah, that what I say. So people that don't understand the history, Dota's relationship to like Warcraft. I realize that's so old now that people don't even know, and I barely even know of it. But I know that like yes, the like Half-Life to Counter-Strike type shit. These games that were designed around the base of another game, but to create an entirely new sort of like multiplayer experience that is a different conceptual thing than what the core experience is, you know? And yeah, Dota was like a custom mod to like a fan mod or some shit to Warcraft 3 that got turned into Dota, you know?
nothing more than trash mobs. Presumably,
Probably even earlier
most
Warcraft, I
enemies
don't
in
know.
This game are probably meant to just be mown down as efficiently as possible by your characters, as you prepare for the true threats that are to come. One such threat is the appearance of Margit, who can invade your world and stalk you at random.
Isn't that's cool. Isn't I don't know the history of this, but wasn't League based on Dota? League was like Warcraft spawned Dota, which spawned League of Legends, yeah.
Little pillager, bent on stacking the lands of gold. I will swat away any and all who dare approach.
Defeat invaders like Margit, and you'll receive a Favor of the Night, which buffs your character in some way. Indeed,
So these buffs gotta be big, man. To me, what makes or breaks a fun roguelite is how much of an impact your boons give you. And that's something that clearly resonated super hard with like Hades, where the abilities that you got felt pretty substantial, where sometimes they became not as big, but most of them were like, oh, I am seeing the difference here, dude. Like I am now whooping ass for this shit.
defeating bosses is just one of many ways to power up your character during a run. According to PC Gamer, loot now includes passive skills like stat buffs and
Cool.
active effects and affinities for certain statuses. Additionally, defeating bosses allows you to sometimes choose from different loot or upgrade options, and in addition to that, loot is also now tiered with that signature color-coded rarity
Oh!
that you'll instantly recognize.
That's nice. That they're also gonna have like PSO red boxes around. Loot is gonna have like, oh, we got a bunch of rares in this shit. Okay, yeah, that's some casino shit. That is very fun. I like it.
If you've played MMOs or Diablo. And obviously
Yo,
this
Sound,
is
thank you, dude.
important for this kind of game because it forces you to constantly evaluate new upgrades for your build. I like the idea of a tier system for weapons in this game because it adds variety to your playthroughs. For example, if you don't like using a longsword generally, but then you find a longsword that's like a really high rarity, all of a sudden you're evaluating that weapon in a different light and it might actually be worth using.
Yeah, the whole entire
Getting out
concept
of
is
your
for
comfort
like
zone in that
infinite
way.
replayability.
So
That's what
while
they're going
armor
for. They're going
upgrades
for like a
need to be
multiplayer system
absent
that is
in
infinitely
favor of
replayable.
Choosing different skins for your character instead, weapon upgrades are a really big part of each run, and the equipment screen now apparently has been simplified to just 3 weapon slots for each hand, so that's 6 in total. What's worth noting though is that unlike in Elden Ring, there are no weight penalties or stat requirements for these weapons, so there's actually no downside to equipping 6 weapons.
That's pretty great.
In fact, it's
encumberment is gone. That's great.
Weapons actually now come with passive buffs as well, and these passive buffs will apply to your character even if they're simply equipped, and even if you don't meet the level requirement for a weapon, which is a requirement that some powerful weapons do have. Should you die in Nightreign, you'll be put into a downed state, where your teammates are actually encouraged to damage you in order to revive you. From a gameplay perspective, this is a really cool take on the revival mechanic, because it's usually a bit of a drag in other games. Unlike in other games where you have to stand still and revive someone, this allows you to make use of your character's weapons and unique arsenal and skills.
So you like smack the shit out of your friends and they get back up?
Of being able to slap your friends silly for dying in a dumb way, which sounds kind of cathartic. If you die during the daytime, apparently you have the choice to respawn with a slight punishment to your character's level. But if it's night, you'll have no such option, and the Ring of Rain will be closing, and that will bring with it damage to those who get drenched. And at the ring's close, every day you'll be forced into a randomized boss fight with a challenging enemy that represents the end of that day. Die here, in the dark, and you'll be forced to rely on your fellow Nightfarers to revive you in the midst of combat. And if all 3 of you lose your lives at any time, it's game over and it's back to the Roundtable Hold with you all. While most everything that you've collected is lost upon death, one thing is not, and that's a resource called Merc. Merc is a currency that persists between rounds, and it's able to be spent in the Roundtable Hold to buy character emotes, customizable skins, and most importantly, relics. Relics.
Yeah, so the skins is cool because that's what we were saying. There needs to be something to show that, oh, you are making progress, but like there has to be some sort of stat thing like your maximum health goes up or your stamina or some shit.
Permanent attribute buff, and each character can slot in 3 relics that can tailor playstyles to your liking.
Okay.
IGN mentions that some relics allowed them to deal extra damage with throwing knives, and some relics boosted the damage that you do with a certain weapon type, which is cool because then you would go into each round hoping to get that weapon. PC Gamer notes that they found relics that allowed their healing flasks to also heal their allies, or relics that marked treasure for them on the map.
That's cool.
Relics that made their critical attacks.
Yo, Shadowmate, thank you, dude. Thanks for the 10.
It seems like all of these relics are color-coded as well.
Max playing this with Kenny and Simmons, with both him and Simmons shooting arrows at Kenny while dodging a boss. I don't think Simmons is interested in this at all. I don't think this is his cup of tea in any way at all. Because Simmons enjoys breaking these games and like finding the busted stuff, and you don't get to do that. Like, it literally takes that away from you.
For different characters, but apparently you can also perform something called a relic rite to switch around their color coding. I'm not too sure I understand how that works. Just
like, again, like Simmons is the best example of why Elden Ring was super popular and why this will not eclipse Elden Ring. This standalone game is taking away the thing that made that game such a big deal, which is effectively your character, your progress, your choices. All of that's being taken away in this game. Right? Everything. It's not your character. You don't make the choices. You just drop in and just choose what the game gives you, you know, and then hope it all works out. This is an opposite of an RPG. This is pretty much like Elden Ring, the arcade game, and we're gonna siphon it all down to like a 45-minute, 3-day experience. You know, to me, it sounds really exciting because it's weird and different, and I genuinely like the gameplay of these games a lot. So people say cash grab, whatever. I mean, I don't give a fuck. I'm excited. It seems like it'll be fun. It seems like it'll be something that'll do a lot for me personally if you already are into these games. Right? This does not seem like it's a kind of a high concept version of a multiplayer FromSoft game that will definitely not appeal towards everyone. It will not.
able to visit a training ground to test out your character's new kit and to prepare for your next incursion. Apparently there's even a codex here that gives background lore on characters and enemies, which is new for a Souls-like game. But once you're done here, it's back out into day one of another journey, where you'll have to hope that you can survive.
Yeah, Elden Ring Returnal.
Interestingly,
Yeah.
when you do die out in the world, there's a chance that a red corpse will show up in someone else's world, and that's your corpse, and in that world,
there's
apparently
even-
it will be a fantastic source of loot. for
There's
them.
even death adjustments
This,
to other
according From
worlds? Weird.
Software, is Nightrein's unique asynchronous online element, and this is in addition to the usual phantoms that you'll be able to see running around the world.
Yeah, it's some let it die
On
shit.
that note, leaving messages for others is
That's also in
apparently
Returnal,
a feature
duh.
that's been removed in this game, and it was removed in the name of speed and fluidity, which are two things that are clearly very important priorities for Nightrein's gameplay.
Here's the thing. This is likely also going to be the least involved story shit. The story is probably going to be very straightforward and not entirely in depth because to me, at least from what the proposition is, the whole point of this is like a gameplay focus. It's about urgency. It's about moving forward. It's about getting stuff done. I don't even know where this game takes place thematically in story or anything like that, or how it does, but it doesn't seem like that's a priority at all. Like, we don't want you to really playing this for the story. We don't want you to sit here and like read shit. Not that much, you know? And try to investigate why this is happening, intentions of a characters and stuff. No. It's a parallel world, new timeline. Well, there you go. They don't want you to think about that. That's why they're doing that. It's not canon, it's an Elseworld. Well, there you go.
This game
They don't want you
revolves
thinking
around
about that
getting
shit.
As much done as possible in your 15-minute days before each boss fight. Leveling up, for example, is another thing that's been streamlined. No longer do you need to sit and rest.
Yeah,
by
it
the
does
side of
automatic.
grace to level up and restore your flasks. Rather, you only need to be in the proximity of grace to do so. And even leveling up has been streamlined to where you can auto-level recommended stats just by mashing a button, and this process will automatically upgrade the stats.
Yeah, so I get what they're going for, dude. Okay, so they want to make a roguelite with the urgency of a battle royale. Roguelites don't inherently have a level of urgency to them, even from the few that I've played. There's no like, hey, I really need to push forward and do this? Is there anything like incentivizing me for going fast? Not really, other than you can maybe do a run quicker. And they don't have urgency. Like, you kind of sit here and think about your choices on first runs and all that kind of shit. It isn't like a BR. We're in a BR. Is Risk of Rain like that? So I'm guessing this probably has the most similarities to Risk of Rain, because a BR is all about urgency. Make those choices, make them fast, get moving. The more you sit here and think, the more the zone singes your ass, or somebody kills you in a situation where you weren't paying attention, you know? And it's like, oh yeah, Souls games are kind of like that, where if you're not paying attention and being like attentive, you're going to get messed up. But now they're going to increase the sort of like anxiousness of the game with the fact that we got to move, we got to get going, we got to move, you know?
Suit your character. As noted by IGN, the structure of the game really lends itself to this gradual build in tension with every day that culminates in a boss fight, and then that tension recedes again if you're victorious that night, and the Ring of Rain retracts away from you. All enemies killed on day 1 remain dead, and with day 2 beginning, your team is able to get back to exploring and preparing for that next challenge, which will require...
It seems like
you
a
to
very fun
synergize your
gameplay loop
builds
to me.
together and come up with
But
strategies
it all
to
depends on
take out
how
the field
satisfying
bosses
is the
you wish to
looting,
face.
how
So I think
satisfying
this
is the
process of
exploring, you know?
looting and exploring and fighting
Are the permanent
creates
rewards
really
good and
peaks
cool?
and valleys to the gameplay.
If there's an issue with Elden Ring, is that you never look cool. I hate to say that. There's an Elden Ring I got a personal issue with Elden Ring, and it's that I don't think the gear ever, I think some gear can look really cool in Elden Ring, but most of the gear sets in the game do not mix super well, and if they do, look weird. And the only problem is I have perspective of other Souls games where fashion Souls is a big priority. And in those games, things look better. I think there's cooler looking gear in Dark Souls 3, man. I think there's also some really cool looking shit even in Dark Souls 2. Elden Ring sort of like held back, and the amount of things that you can get to look cool is very much like all kind of the same, and there's some weird things, but that's about it. But nothing like gets close to like a Bloodborne or all that kind of shit. This cannot be that way, right? If we're getting like fashion sets and creating gear for characters, and that is sort of the permanent thing that you build in the background, you have to give us like this has to be like Monster Hunter like, dude. They have to give us the ability to make our characters look good if we want to keep doing runs and shit, especially if the point is to play the game for like the long haul,
as From Software says as well. And they believe that this will condense the experience of Elden Ring, fitting exploration and character building and discovery and challenge into just one short play session. At the culmination of the third day, you'll face the Night Lord, or rather, you'll face one of 8 chosen Night Lords that you would have set out to kill when you first left Roundtable Hold. According to the game's director, these final bosses will be gradually unlocked as you progress, and I assume each Night Lord will be harder and harder in difficulty as well. One Night Lord that we've had a glimpse of already is called Gladius, and they're a hound that is capable of splitting into 3 wolves, which suddenly will require your team to use their abilities and contain the situation and just fight 3 enemies at once. I love that many of these bosses appear to be designed for the co-op experience.
I wonder if there's any what communication is like,
as their body parts can fall
because you can't assume the game is just going to have like open mic,
the main boss,
you know,
which will keep your teammates busy.
You got to assume it's not going to have that.
Like it will be a far cry from the co-op experience of the base game of Elden Ring, which often results in your whole team going to town on one enemy who can only really focus on one of you.
I like this.
So
this is good.
Taking multiplayer into account at a whole nother level.
They say no communication,
As
only
for the game's
gesturing.
Replayability, some players have noted concerns with the variety of locations and the variety of bosses in their 4-hour play session.
Holy fuck.
So, From Software
That's a little
was
archaic,
quick to
man.
reassure them that the full game will have a lot more variation to it. Really, I feel like so much of this game's success or failure will come down to that simple fact. You know, how much replayability can From Software really offer in this one area of Limveld? And this brings me to the inclusion of characters and enemies from Dark Souls in Elden Ring, which
Easily
I feel like
one
is
of the craziest parts of
probably
this.
the most controversial topic of this announcement. So this character seems to be the Firekeeper from Dark Souls 3. This spider is the Duke's dear Freya from Dark Souls 2. This is the Centipede Demon from Dark Souls 1. And this is straight up the Nameless King from Dark Souls 3.
You're not getting Sekiro bosses, right? You're not getting Bloodborne. You're getting things that are owned by Bandai Namco.
A lot of people have been laughing, rightfully so, at the idea of people like me who explain the lore having to explain.
And I think that is okay. So there you go. I think Vadi's about to come to the same conclusion why lore is not important. Don't think of it like that, where these games are so lore focused. This is an arcade game, dude. So we're just pulling shit from all this other stuff that is not connected to Elden Ring at all. Souls games, not connected to Elden Ring. They are disconnected. So we're just doing shit. So do not look at this. I think that's the point. You see Nameless King, and you're like, oh, okay. So I should not be thinking about lore. It's a big part of these games. I get it. I should not be thinking about that. That's the point of it, right? That's why they are there, to let you know it's not about that. This is one of the first games ever that FromSoft has done in a hell of a long time where it's just fan service, and it's aggressive fan service.
Why characters like the Nameless King have made their way into Elden Ring. And I'm not gonna lie, I find this situation kind of funny as well. I agree that it's a bit ridiculous that they're in this world. Especially
it's the devs telling us to not take it seriously.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like these
don't try to make sense of this. Have fun with it.
Have been added to the game for some deep lore reason.
And we get it. Like, why does that relationship exist? Why does this seem weird now? Because all of the FromSoft games very intentionally design everything with implications of story, right? Even though that story might not be told to you in words, the reason things are the way they are and they're designed how they're designed in almost every fucking facet of these games is very thought out and absolutely is meant to build implication and quite literally lore. The reason this statue is here doing that pose is because of this thing, because this guy did that thing, because I saw a statue doing that thing. Like, now that doesn't seem to be important anymore, you know? All the other games, right? All the other games are that way, but now it is different.
We all know why they're primarily here. They're here because this is a way for From Software to reuse their extremely high quality repository of assets and enemies and animations from their past games.
That's a bit of a that's a little bit of a pessimistic way of thinking about it, you know? That's immediately the that immediately is, oh, well, this is just for the money. I have to remind you guys, Elden Ring is already that. I get it. Many people got into Souls games in Elden Ring. It ended up being one of the biggest fucking games of all time because it was an asset dump. It already is that. Okay, but this is blatant though. No, dude, it was already blatant. Elden Ring was already clearly just FromSoft All-Stars. It already was. Like, so many things, now they're just like not being coy about it. Now they're like, hey, here's the stake driver animation. Oh, Jesus, here's the nameless king. What the fuck? Like, whoa, now we're just going crazy with it. They're effectively executing what Elden Ring was by design. And it's, oh, let's just take all the shit we made and make an entire world out of it. Okay, cool. Now they're making a multiplayer experience out of all the shit that they've done before, but now you're familiar with it because you played Elden Ring and it seems like, oh, well, this is an asset dump. Well, it's like, well, bro, they have been. That's what Elden Ring was. Dark Souls 3 was also, had used a ton of assets from Bloodborne and shit. Like, this is not new. And this is not a new thing. This is not a new concept in general for the video game industry. All fucking games do this, dude. Tekken 7 has Tekken 5 animations in it. This is not as big of a deal that you think it is. Because if the game experience is that much different and is that much different in design, you're not going to care. If it's that much fun and different and like unique in how you play this shit, Smash Brothers exists, dude. Smash Brothers Ultimate exists, and it's huge. I do not think this will be as big as Elden Ring, but I think immediately saying this is bad because it is an asset dump and asset reuse is literally what made Elden Ring one of the reasons Elden Ring became popular, because it was everything that they had made before. I won't emphatically say it's an amazing thing. I don't think that's inherently, you know, that's inherently a thing that makes games better, but this isn't like a black or white situation. You reused assets bad, you know, all new assets good. Well, you know, we just want unique experiences, right? We just want a game that doesn't play exactly like the others and tries to do something different and new. And I do think, personally speaking, this shouldn't be full price. I don't think it should be a full price as much as an Elden Ring game. Just speaking. But if you want to sell this for like a 40, I think the highest barrier is like a 50, then yeah, I think that could be worth it. And it'll either suck or it won't suck. And it won't be because of the reused assets that it sucks. It'll be because, oh, well, this was kind of a multiplayer, you know, experiment and it didn't really work. Okay. You know, it wasn't the fact that, oh, we fought the nameless king again, and mainless king, and the fact that they brought back Dark Souls bosses, that made it terrible. It's like, no, that won't be the reason, dude. It'll be because like the gameplay loop was ass and the characters leveling up didn't feel good and it wasn't a good call, right? It was like a cool idea, but like it was an experiment that didn't work out for gameplay reasons. The mainless king. So again, the fact that there's asset reusage doesn't inherently have me like, you know, that's a big negative. This is a huge problem. I come from fucking fighting games, bro. They're all built on the aspect of asset reusage, like almost all of them. And yeah, sometimes a game will go through some small changes and change things up in some way where it's like, oh, I don't care the assets are being reused because this is a better game now, dude. This is a significantly more fun, like legit better game. Monster Hunter exists, for God's sake, you know? I don't immediately go to like the absolute negatives of the situation. The Yakuza series exists, you know? I think they have something here with Elden Ring. Clearly they want to make more of it. They want to create something that is a different gameplay experience. I think if this was just okay, here's where I would be like, okay, really, bro? If there's another Elden Ring expansion and it's like a $40, $50 expansion, whatever, and it's to Elden Ring and it opens up another island or some portal or some shit, and you go and you fight Dark Souls bosses now, and it's just Elden Ring again, and now you can just run. but it is the same gameplay loop. It is the same thing. And I'd be like, really? I mean, I'll play it because I trust y'all, and maybe that'll be a unique experience. I definitely kind of would have wanted something new, and you take Elden Ring and the next step after Erdtree, right? Which is why this is specifically what it is, which is why this is a spin-off, which is why it's trying to be something actually different, because the core gameplay, at least from what they're explaining, is genuinely different. It is not Elden Ring. It's like an Elden Ring arcade game.
Tons of enemies and animations in Elden Ring are already taken.
Also, I'm glad he talks about this, because clearly, you know, we've been around the block a few times.
Their past games. It's a technique that frees up from software.
Again, what is the difference? Why everyone's saying this now? The Souls community and the people that got into Souls game dramatically increased very fast with Elden Ring. So there's people that just don't know this. People that don't know that the foundation of FromSoft games is asset reusage. And a reminder, the foundation of video games in general is asset reusage to create different experiences that play dramatically different, but use some shit from previous games.
Focus on designing new games and new assets that matter even more than these ones. And I personally don't have a huge problem with that. I think a lot of people would have a problem with this spin-off game existing instead of a new IP, but I guess cutting corners like this does allow them to focus their resources on new IPs. So I personally don't...
It's not a good thing? My dude, listen. Tatsunoko vs. Capcom and Marvel vs. Capcom 3 exist. I did not like Tatsunoko vs. Capcom when it came out. And then Marvel 3, early on, was just TVC. Same animations, similar mechanics, all this shit. I was like, bro, we're just flipping shit, and it still plays like Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. This is not okay. That eventually ended up becoming Ultimate Marvel 3, like one of the greatest fucking fighting games ever. Okay? It was an asset flip from a previous game, and it became something that was a game that with different characters that I wanted to play. That was substantially different. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 also exists. Like, we're not, there's no argument here, because I come from the perspective of fighting games, where the whole point is to create new and unique experiences using things that have existed before and make it play substantially different. It isn't a matter of like, it is bad or good to flip assets. It's a matter of, is the thing in the end worth it? Was it fun? And if the thing in the end isn't fun, it wasn't the asset flipping that made it unfun. It was the new shit. It was the new idea that they did to those assets that made it fucking unfun. Elden Ring's this expansion is literally that. This might not be fun. It might not be good. It might be like, yeah, well, maybe this is sort of a testament that these games should sort of stay as like weird, obtuse multiplayer games with that are obviously meant for single player. This could be that. And it's like, oh yeah, so how about you FromSoft guys, you're really good at these single player shit, but let's not do this. It'd be better if you put more efforts into, you know, another Armored Core or something like that. I think we prefer another single player experience like that. Or it could be fucking awesome. I, as somebody that had zero interest in ever playing any kind of multiplayer for any fucking FromSoft game, dude, I'm gonna be real. Any FromSoft game, anyone that I consider to be one of the greatest games of all time, I actively despise any of the multiplayer in these games. I go, brother, why am I playing a versus mode in any of this shit when I can be playing a fighting game? I actively think that. Now, with this, I want to play multiplayer in this. I don't want to do this alone. This doesn't seem like this will be fun alone. This seems like I'll probably try it, but I actively want to find 3 people to go through this shit, to experience it with other people. And I think that might be one of the whole points of this, is that, oh yeah, like maybe this isn't focused around PvP weirdness, and this isn't focused around obtuse, bringing your friends in to do shit. This now seems like it might be kind of fun. I do not give a shit about any multiplayer element in any FromSoft game, dude. In fact, I avoid it like the plague. Even if it's good, I'm like, I'm good, bro. I don't want that. That's not what I'm looking for from this stuff.
To which they're taking bosses from Dark Souls, so there's definitely still the risk that they could overdo this, in some people's eyes especially. For a while there, I was really desperately trying to understand how the universes of Dark Souls and Elden Ring could be conjoined in this way. At the end of Dark Souls, the painter does paint a new world, which could conceivably have been the world of Elden Ring, and what's also funny is that ages ago, George Martin stated that Elden Ring is a sequel to Dark Souls, which many took to be a mistake on his part, but in retrospect, that quote almost takes on new meaning now. The official Dark Souls Twitter account has acknowledged this overlap.
That's crazy.
Universes, and
Of course,
it notes
dude.
that ancestral foes are appearing in this world, and that they are remnants of a fire that once burned bright. And in an interview with Famitsu, the lore supposedly suggests that these characters were drawn here from other worlds thanks to the influence of the Night Lord. While
It's
a
just
bit
from
cheesy to have
it's
this
from
overlap
Bandai
between
Namco
universes,
Multiverse.
these universes overlapping kind of makes sense in the context of Nightreign, because this is a world that is in flux. Most importantly though, Nightreign in general doesn't seem to be connected to the canon of Elden Ring. Rather, the game's director has called the story completely separate and parallel to the world of Elden Rings. But that doesn't mean we can't still enjoy the story of Nightreign, and it also doesn't mean that Nightreign won't teach us anything about the lore of Elden Ring.
That's true. I
Even
don't
if
think it's
a
going to be a
separate
priority, though.
story, these
I think the whole
events
existence of these things is there to sort of tell you to just don't worry about the lore and have fun. You know, that's what I'm feeling.
still occurring in parallel to Elden.
But I could see why Vadi, of all people, would, you know, based on his career, would look at it differently and would like to look at it as in, like, yeah, there's some Souls connection here. Because he's right. What he's saying is not incorrect. But to me, it's almost like, it almost seems like it's a nod from developers of not to take this seriously. We're just having fun, right?
Canon, and thus they can still potentially offer context about Elden Ring's world. Cut content is a good example. Like, that's not canon, and yet it gives us context about the world and what the developers are thinking in regards to a lot of these characters and a lot of this lore. These shadowy titans, for example, could give us clues about the dead titans in the lands between. The Night Lord could be related to the Nox, and they could be the Lord of Night that the Nox have been anticipating for eternity. The Roundtable Hold is likely in opposition to the Night Lord for good reason as well, and yeah, that's all valid lore, even if it's parallel to Elden Ring, I think. What I'm most
For guys that don't know who Vadi Vidya
forward to,
is,
though,
he's like the Ultra Souls lore master, where he has created a career and long-running series of videos based on very limited information from in-game tellings to connect the story of the games and make it digestible. That's it. And he's one of the reasons why Bloodborne ended up being one of my favorite games ever, because I watched a Vadi Vidya video on Bloodborne's story after I beat it. And it was pretty incredible to realize all this stuff that my brain saw, but it didn't translate to story stuff, to sort of be reminded that, hey, all this meant this. And you're like, damn, you're right. Holy crap, it was in front of my face the whole time and I didn't realize it. We're not really used to games having that kind of storytelling, you know? So he's the guy that puts all the pieces together, spends a ton of time making sure things are here and there, mostly gets it right, might sometimes get it wrong because a lot of things are left up to interpretation, but it's fun. And I think that experience that I had with Bloodborne, many people had with Elden Ring for the first time, because so many people got into Elden Ring and Souls games and didn't realize that these games were sort of like this. So they discovered that the story was there after like beating it and got told all this stuff that is there. And they had their mind blow moment the same way that I did with Bloodborne. And it deeply grew, caused good word of mouth, ton of people telling other people the story's actually cool, all this kind of shit, you know, yada, yada, yada. Like, I think that experience has happened to other people in a different way, you know, on a much wider scale.
the character stories, because I think those stories will be good on their own. So, all in all, I'm excited to see what the game's new director, Junya Ishizaki, cooks
You
up.
enjoyed your second playthrough of Elden Ring more than the first for this reason? Dude, I'm with you on Bloodborne. I was there. When I did my second playthrough of Bloodborne and I knew the story, I loved it. And I discovered all this shit I missed. I loved it, man. Absolutely loved it.
This director has taken a risk doing something different with this project, and I think it says a lot about the company that they'd trust a new director.
That's the same thing with most things, though. Like even movies, you know? When you know something by the end, was it just for a shitty twist that, you know, twists the knife? Or is it a Sixth Sense situation where it was in front of your face the whole goddamn time and you didn't see it? and you want to go back and watch it again because of it. Oh shit, he was a ghost the whole time. Like that kind of shit. Like it's cool. It's cool to go back with different eyes and look back. Bro, why do you think I like Final Fantasy VII Remake so much? Like, come the fuck on, bro. Why do you think I love FF7 Remake so much? Because the context changed everything in the end. It was like, what? And every scene that had that with new context changed it. It was like, well, this is crazy, dude.
With a project like this that no one saw coming. So I'm excited to play it, and I'm excited to die in Limveld and have you guys pick up all the loot that I
That's a great video, Vadi. This is good stuff. Let me read his thoughts. I'm curious what he says.
The reason I'm excited is because this solves the main problem I have with Elden Ring, and that's its replayability. In Elden Ring, once you roughly know...
Damn, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Elden Ring's too fucking big. It's too big and there's too much shit. It's almost like... oh my god, I have to do it all over again.
All the items are, replaying the game becomes a bit of a chore because it's just a matter of deciding on the best items for your build, and then you have to commit to this sometimes agonizing speedrun from one side of the map to the other, and there's so many places you ignore in the pursuit.
Now it's funny, on first playthrough, it's the absolute boon of the whole game. It's one of its greatest beneficiaries is the exploration and discoverability and figuring stuff out and getting a thing that's like, oh, this is so great. But when you have to do it again and the newness of it's gone, it's like, well, I just got to go bum rush that and then deal with all this shit. It's one of the reasons why I think Bloodborne is so good, is because Bloodborne's really focused, you know, in what it is. And it's the reason why I like that. Even I still like it more. I think Elden Ring might be a better overall game, but I personally prefer Bloodborne because it's like this straight shot. There's obviously places you can go, but it's more designed like it's a Castlevania game or like a Metroidvania where you unlock things and go here and go back and get that, you know? In one way, it makes the first playthrough of Elden Ring way better, you know, than my first playthrough of Bloodborne. But then I played Bloodborne again, and I loved it, and I played it again and again and again and again and again and again and again, and it was still fucking good. And I still can go back and play Bloodborne and just fucking love it, you know?
That it's just.
But I will say, I think Elden Ring has a better first playthrough. Absolutely, I'm with you. Better first playthrough than Bloodborne, 100%.
To get lost and immersed in the world when you're replaying the game. But with Nightreign, you can continuously get lost and immersed in this ever-changing world with ever-changing builds, and I think that's the experience of playing a Souls-like for the first time that we all love, and if this game succeeds, I think it will be because it nails that feeling of playing a Souls-like game for the first time and not really knowing where to go, you know? In Nightreign, that Elden Ring experience of discovery and challenge can be distilled down to this short, punchy play session that you can also share with friends, and I think that's absolutely more than enough reason for this game to exist. And yeah, I think it'll do really well if they nail that randomization aspect and diversity in the world. Also, I really hope that they add some sort of PvP mode to this game down the line, because the pieces are all there, and
I'm definitely not in the in that popular opinion, and I'll acknowledge that. Like, I just look at the PvP in Souls games and I go, ugh, it just looks like inconsistent butt, dude, and I have to deal with everybody's wacky builds and shit. I'm like, ugh. I do not like it, man. But again, it's honestly one of the things that made Dark Souls games pop off so much, was like how much you can grief people with your ridiculous bullshit, you know? It's a big part of it, and it's something that I just don't engage in at all. But I will acknowledge it's one of the reasons why the Souls games in general blew up, you know, and why people obviously like it in Elden Ring and all this shit.
People joke about Elden Ring having a battle royale mode, but unironically, that would suit Elden Ring really well with its diversity.
I could see that being cool
for PvP, and I hope this does well. And
ain't never gonna have an Elden Ring battle royale with the netcode of this fucking game, bro. Ain't never gonna do it. They smack a guy, they dodge, the hit effect goes off, and they take their health bar went down, and it goes back, and they took no damage. You're like, the fuck is going on, dude. Other games like Rumbleverse was a combat-based action game, right? And had to go through ridiculous hurdles to make that work with players from all over the planet, right? And it still had fucking problems, right? Other games, like best example of this is Naraka, and Naraka hugely has problems with that, where if you're gonna fight somebody that is like closer to servers and stuff, you are screwed, man. Like, you have to get people within your region and your area to be consistently on, or else it just fucking does not work, man. You're gonna get roasted by people that are closer to servers.
Keep investing in this kind of game, because this is kind of the foundation for...
It's like they need to come up with like a genuinely amazing like rollback solution or something that is either like server based and rollback based, and that is not easy. It is not. If you create an experience that is actually a battle royale where you're now going to run into some dude that's like in Africa or some shit in the final 3 circle, oh great, like we're just jumping all over the place, and it's just hoping to God that we are going to eventually come out the victor, you know?
Incredible Elden Ring experience from a PvE perspective, yes, but adding PvP would add even more replayability, and yeah, I really hope they go down that road.
The consistency of the entire experience would be based on the fact that you're close to the other person. That's it. And that's what it boils down to with these things. With shooting games, there's like a bunch of ways that they can hide that shit, but with like close range combat games and wild mobility and all this stuff that happens because of fighting games, you know, in even games that are in a 2D environment, you have to account for all that shit, man. And it took fighting games that long to come up with solutions to figure that stuff out, and they're still figuring it out. So are you going to ask FromSoft of all devs to be the one to do that? No, dude, they're notoriously terrible at this shit. They're not really good at these like engineering networking solutions. So, I mean, I'd love it. I think it would be dope. I think it would be genuinely cool, but I would not want to do that. You know, I would not want to do that.
And more, please check out all the articles that I've been referencing in this video. I've got them linked in the description.
Anyway, I'm excited as shit. I'm gonna say personally, I'm actually very excited. Asset flipping doesn't do much to make me think that the game is a, you know, less quality experience. I do personally hope that it offers a fun gameplay thing to it. I don't want it to be free to play. I think it should be like, I think the sweet spot is $40, especially if it is like a thorough, long-running, multi-developing character thing that it's going to take you like, you know, 20 to 30 to 50 to 60 runs to eventually get the true last boss and all that shit, and then you can modify it beyond that to make it even crazier and earn even more stuff. There's going to be an end game to this. There's going to be an end game because it's going to be co-op and shit to keep playing it even at end game. Is there going to be the grinding lands? You know, all I'm saying is that that'll be there. So I'm very curious. I'm curious what the hell the beta is going to be like, and I don't think it'll be that long off.